Hey everyone, so I'm going to demonstrate how to do a slab plate. So here's an example of a slab plate, another example as well. And we actually use these plates that are already created as molds. So right here I'm just wedging my clay. Notice that I have a fairly large piece of clay. The larger your plate is that you're starting with, the larger the slab of clay is going to need to be. Therefore, the larger the ball it needs to be. So here I'm just wedging, I'm twisting that clay. Hopefully by now you know how to do this. And that's just kind of helping get an even consistency in the clay as well as any extra air bubbles out. So I am gonna pound this down, it'll be a little bit loud. And you only have to do this 2 or 3 times just to kind of give yourself a flat surface to start with. And then we are rolling our clay out. So I have my piece of clay in the middle, I have 2 guide sticks on either side, and my rolling pin. And this is a little bit of effort at the beginning, you're just rolling out that clay, and remember you have to rotate that clay every so often. So I don't want to roll it all the way out this way, otherwise I'll just have a long piece of clay, but I need to rotate it and set it back down. And then I'm going to roll it out a little bit more. Whatever shape plate you have, so for example if I was using one of the circular plates, I need to make sure that the clay is rolled out large enough to fit on a circular plate. Whereas here I have kind of like an oval plate, so if I would like to use this one, a same thing. I need to make sure that the clay is rolled out a little bit longer this way. There's also some square plates back there. So whatever shape I have, I just have to make sure that my clay slab will fit. So I'm going to flip that over. I want to make sure I pull out the canvas. I don't want any wrinkles underneath the canvas, otherwise that'll create crevices underneath my slab plate. And I just keep rolling. Eventually I'm going to hit the guide sticks, and I will hear that. You can start to hear that I'm hitting it on one side. I'm going to go ahead and do one more flip. And every time I flip it, I'm smoothing out that canvas underneath. I'm also releasing the clay from the canvas so it's easier to roll out. So I'm going to check that my plate is fitting. A little roll that way. All right, and I'm going to roll this all the way up now. So you can hear how the guide sticks are starting to get touched by the rolling pin. There's like a little bit that's still open, or still a little bit thicker. So my last flip, again, I'm smoothing out that canvas underneath, setting down my guide sticks. Okay, and one last roll. This next step is a little bit tricky. You are going to take newspaper. You have to use newspaper between your mold and the clay. If you don't use newspaper, what's going to end up happening is that the clay that you push into your mold is going to stick, and then you're going to have to restart. So make sure that you take your newspaper, you set it down inside of your plate that you're going to use, and then as carefully as you can, you're going to pick up this slab of clay. Now granted, I have a much larger piece of clay, so I'm going to cut my clay down just a little bit because I don't need that much. Just going to cut a little bit of excess off. And I'm going to prepare to flip it onto my plate. Before I do that, getting a little crumb off. Before I do that, I'm going to take my metal rib, or you may use a rubber rib, and I'm just going to smooth out this surface because I want it to be as smooth as possible because that's going to be the bottom of my plate. So all I'm doing is I'm stroking with the rib over the clay, and I'm taking out that texture from the canvas until it's really smooth and really soft. And this will just help when you look at the bottom of some of the plates. You'll notice some of them are going to be really smooth, some of them are going to be really gunky. Like look at all those lines that are stuck. So those are all lines that were from rolling out slabs that had crevices underneath them, or they didn't smooth them out. So it is really important. It looks much better, and you're going to lower the chance of your piece cracking later. So this next step is a little bit tricky. I'm gonna pick this up kind of quickly and in one motion and lay it down in one motion. I don't wanna do a lot of grabbing with my fingers or pinching the clay. I'm grabbing an area that's not gonna be on my plate right now. Just gonna flip it up, flip it down. I'm gonna scoot this over so you can see it a little bit better. So notice I did go quickly, but not too quickly. And now I need to start pressing the clay into my mold. While this is happening, I am gonna create some wrinkles because the newspaper is gonna press into my clay. I can later on go under and smooth that out once it gets to a leather hard stage. That's where the clay is still, like you could still carve into it. It's still cold to the touch, but it's very firm. So right now I'm just pressing in on the top. I'm gonna start to smooth it out so I don't have my finger marks on it. And then the same thing that I did on the plate bottom, I'm gonna go back to getting my rib, smooth it out. It gets a little bit trickier when you're working on a surface that's leaning. So that part I'll just smooth out with my fingers until it's as smooth as I want it to be. Then the last step for my plate is to take my pin tool or your needle tool, and I need to cut the excess clay out around the edge. So I'm taking this, I'm gonna cut in from the side until I hit my mold. So right there I hit my mold, and then I'm gonna slowly come around the edge and start to cut it off. So I'm gonna pause here and change the angle so you guys can see what I'm doing. So at this point, I'm just starting to cut around the edges. I'm gonna do this fairly slow because I don't want to mess up. And every once in a while, I might just come out and pull a section up and off that I don't need and continue. I wanna be really careful not to get stuck in the newspaper. If I get stuck in the newspaper, it's kind of likely that I'll cut into my piece, and I won't want that. So going slow is helpful. Just doing a little chunk at a time is all I'm doing right now. Making sure that I pull the newspaper underneath my plate so that my pin tool doesn't get stuck. And now I have my perfect, almost perfect, nothing's really perfect, but an almost perfect slab plate. So it's sitting in the mold and it's all smoothed out and it's cut out from the edges. And notice how nice those edges are cut out. So again, it's really important to go slow when you guys are cutting out your edges. And then once it's firm enough, you can just easily roll your fingers right around the edges to smooth out that top edge. You're gonna wanna wait a while before you pop this out of the mold to smooth out the edge on the bottom, but you can definitely smooth out that top edge. And then we're gonna leave our plate in our mold until our plate is done being carved, anything is added to it, and then at the very end, we'll pop them out of the molds, and that's why you have the newspaper, because the newspaper is gonna be that leverage to pop it out. If you wanna cut the newspaper down, that's fine, but do not take the newspaper off. We're gonna leave the newspaper right there. So that is our slab plate mold. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask after the video. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.